There are signs of change in this connection, and I want to start by telling you this very clearly, because perhaps in the last few days, your heart has oscillated between hope and tiredness. Perhaps you have felt that something was different, even without being able to explain it with precision. It's as if the silence were no longer the same, as if the distance had begun to carry another weight, another energy, another intention. An underlying current is shifting. And when this type of change begins to happen, almost always, it appears first in the invisible, in the field of sensitivity, before showing itself in the facts. That is why this message reached you today. Not to feed anxiety, but to bring understanding. Because there is indeed a movement happening in this connection, and it is deeper than it seems. There are moments when life doesn't deliver immediate answers. It first stirs the structures, reorganizes emotions, touches memories, awakens awareness, and only then allows something to become visible. And I will tell you one thing with all affection. Many people get lost exactly in this phase because they look only at the outside and think that nothing is happening. But not always change begins with attitude. Sometimes it begins with restlessness. Sometimes it begins with longing. Sometimes it begins when the person tries to forget you and simply cannot maintain the same coldness as before anymore. In my vision, this is one of the strongest signs that a connection has entered another level, when running away already doesn't bring peace, when silence no longer protects, when absence stops seeming a solution and begins to hurt from inside. And if you are listening to this with a heavy heart, stay with me until the end, because I know it is not easy to sustain feelings when everything seems uncertain. I know that for whomever loves, time can seem too long. I know that there are nights when the mind goes far, creates questions, revives scenes, tries to assemble pieces that don't fit. And even so, there still exists something inside you that hasn't given up completely. Perhaps you have even tried to harden yourself, move on, convince yourself that it is not worth it to feel all this anymore. But deep down, there is still a delicate perception inside your chest, saying that this story didn't finish the way it appears. And I believe that when a message touches exactly that hidden point, it is because heaven is trying to open your eyes to something important. The angels show that this connection entered a period of transition. It is no longer the same energy of before. There exists a displacement happening in the heart of this person. Something that was frozen began to be touched. Something that seemed asleep is giving signs of life. And no, this doesn't signify that everything is going to happen from day to night, nor that you need to live trapped to expectation. It signifies only that the emotional structure of this connection is changing. And this change, still that silent, has power. There are memories returning with more strength. There are comparisons happening without this person wanting to. There are moments when she tries to concentrate on other things, but something pulls the thoughts back to you. What before was avoided now begins to be faced, even if internally. You know what I think when I hear a message so? I think that there exist connections that don't disappear only because there was distance. Some only enter into a deeper phase, more silent, more difficult to understand, and it is precisely for that that a lot of people confuses itself, because expects obvious signs, grand attitudes, immediate words. But not all transformation begins so. Sometimes it begins when the person misses you in simple moments, when remembers your way, when feels lack of the peace that found in you, when perceives that other presences don't occupy the same place, when understands, still that late, that there was something rare in this connection. This is not fantasy. This happens. An undeniable shift has occurred, and when it happens, the soul of the other person begins to get restless. Before continuing, write in the comments this mantra: I receive with peace the signs of change that God is bringing for this connection. Write it with faith, because when we write, it seems that the heart agrees with what heaven is releasing. And sometimes the simple act of declaring already opens inside us a new space for hope to breathe. The angels show that a part of this change has to do with perception. This person began to see what before she minimized, began to understand the weight of your absence, began to feel lack not only of your presence, but of that which you awakened. There are people who only understand the value of a connection when silence installs of truth, when they don't have easy access anymore, when they perceive that you are not more so available like before, when they feel that your energy changed. And I think important to tell you this with sincerity, your change also messed with this connection. The fact of you having recollected part of your energy, even if still exists love, created an impact. Because whomever was accustomed to feeling your presence of a constant way begins to find strange when that changes. Perhaps you have asked yourself many times if this person still thinks of you, if still feels something, if still remembers, if still exists space in the heart of her for this story. And the message of today doesn't come to feed illusion, but to say that there is, yes, an internal movement happening. Still exists a live emotional connection. Still exists affective memory. Still exists comparison. Still exists something that wasn't totally resolved. Only, Desta vez, the angels ask that you don't look only to the feeling of the other. Look also to what is being worked in you, because change of connection doesn't signify only return or approach. Sometimes it signifies clarity, sometimes it signifies closure with peace, sometimes it signifies reconnection in another level. Sometimes it signifies truth coming to light. Take a deep breath for an instant. Place your hand on your heart and feel this message. You don't need to answer nothing now to anyone. Only perceive if, in the deep, you also already came feeling that something was changing. Perhaps in dreams, perhaps in sudden intuições, perhaps in memories that came out of nothing, perhaps in that strange sensation of that this story still didn't say the last word. The angels show me that you are not imagining this. There is even a subtle movement in the field of this connection, and there exists something very important that you need to know. Not all delay signifies negation. Sometimes the delay is precisely the time in which God works where your eyes don't manage to reach. This person has lived moments of reflection more intense than you imagine. There is a different weight inside her, a type of interior call to revisit feelings, attitudes, decisions and losses, and this not always happens of a beautiful or organized form. Sometimes it comes as discomfort, sometimes it comes as longing that tightens, sometimes it comes as regret that the person tries to push far but doesn't manage. The angels show that in certain moments she looks for distractions, tries to look firm, tries to maintain the posture of whomever is well. But inside there exists a conflict. Because something inside her knows that this connection was too significant to be treated like anything. And I want to make you a very honest question. Have you already perceived how certain people change behavior when begin to feel that can lose you of truth? Not always they admit it, not always speak, not always appear, but change from inside. And this alters the whole energy of the connection. This message shows exactly that point. There are signs of change because the heart of this person already is not so comfortable in the position in which it was. Silence already doesn't look so safe. Distance already doesn't bring the same relief. Pride already doesn't protect so much as before. And when these internal structures begin to weaken, the spiritual field of the connection also moves. Now I want to ask you for a simple but powerful thing. Write in the comments 727 as an act of agreement with this message and of openness for the spiritual clarity that is coming over this connection. And if this message is truly helping you and you feel in the heart, you can support this work through the QR code that appears in the video or by the donation link that is in the description and in the pinned comment. This gesture helps this word to reach more people who also are needing comfort, direction, and peace. The angels are sending you a special sign. Your lucky number for today is the 8. Write in the comments, "I receive the energy of the angels. My lucky number is 8, and I receive this message with faith." The number 8 talks of strengthening, re-equilibrium, and movement that exits from stagnation. And this converses directly with what is being shown here, because there exists something exiting from the place in this connection. There exists something being reorganized. There exists something leaving of staying trapped only in the past to begin to touch the present. The change in this connection also has relation with truth. During much time, perhaps this person has tried to rationalize too much what she feels. Perhaps she placed barriers, excuses, fears, justifications. Perhaps she preferred feigning that it was all resolved. But truth has her own way of lifting itself. And when she begins to lift itself, it doesn't matter how many distractions exist, how many days pass, how many approach attempts are made. She returns, she appears in the details, she bothers, she asks for space. The angels show that this truth is beginning to become impossible to ignore. I know that for whomever is of the side of KA, hearing and feeling, sometimes it is difficult to believe without seeing. I know that you can think, but if it is changing, why still didn't happen nothing? And I understand that question, truly. Only change not always comes first in visible attitude. Sometimes it comes first in perception, later in discomfort, later in longing, later in courage. There exists a process. And if there exists something that I learned observing messages, so it is that the human heart delays to accept what the soul already perceived long ago. It is for that the angels aren't asking you for rush. They are asking you for discernment. Because when you understand the spiritual moment of a connection, you leave of despair yourself with each silence. There is an important detail being shown now. This person also feels that you changed, and this brought a new awareness. Perhaps she perceives that you already are not vibrating of the same way of before. Perhaps notes that there exists more firmness in you. Perhaps feels that you started to protect yourself more. And this messes deeply with whomever believed that you would be always there of the same way, waiting, available, predictable. When a woman begins to recollect herself by self-love, by dignity, by tiredness, or even by faith, the whole field around her changes. And whomever is connected to this energy feels, even without explanation, even from far. The angels show me also that there exist small signs happening around you. It can be a song that arises out of nothing. It can be a name that appears repeatedly. It can be a specific memory that insists on returning. It can be a more live dream. It can be that strange sensation of that something is about to happen, still that you don't know what. Don't ignore completely these signs, but also don't turn into a hostage of them. Receive them with serenity, because the objective of the message is not making you live anxious. It is making you understand that the invisible also moves, and that the sensitivity of your heart is not disconnected from the spiritual reality. If you aren't subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe and stay with us. Here always exists a word of faith for when the heart needs to breathe. And I speak this with truth because I know that there is people who arrives up to here in very delicate moments, seeking only a bit of relief, a direction, a light in the middle of confusion. So, if this message is welcoming you today, remain nearby. Now I need to tell you something that perhaps touches deep. The change in this connection doesn't depend only on the feeling existing, it depends also on the courage of someone facing what they feel. And it is precisely there that is the battle of this person. Because feeling already is not the main problem. The problem now is admitting, it's facing, it's accepting that perhaps erred. It's recognizing that that which tried to leave behind continues alive. It's supporting the possibility of arriving up to you and finding a stronger woman, more lucid, less disposed to accept crumbs. This scares, and much. For that, instead of imagining that doesn't exist feeling, many times it is more wise to understand that there exists fear. In my vision, one of the most delicate moments in any connection is when love finds pride. Because love pulls for close, but pride holds. Love wants truth, but pride wants protection. Love wants to expose itself, but pride doesn't want to run the risk of being rejected, and the angels show that this person is exactly in that tension. There is a side that wants to get closer. There is another that resists. There is a side that feels longing. There is another that still tries to maintain control. Only this equilibrium is not going to last for always, because an hour arrives in which the heart tires of fighting against that which it knows. Write in the comments a list of people, including yourself, whom you would like to forgive. Visualize each of them, send love and say, "I forgive you and I release you. May peace be with you." Feel the lightness this brings. Because independently of the outcome of this connection, forgiveness is going to be an important key to release your heart from the weight. And I think this very important, because you cannot wait for clarity in love if you are carrying inside yourself old layers of hurt, guilt, or resentment. The angels want to remind you that the most beautiful change, perhaps, is not only the one that happens in the other, but the one that already started in you. You are being invited to mature your form of loving, to exit from anxiety and enter into confidence, to exit from need and enter into value, to exit from the fear of losing and enter into the awareness of that what is true will find a path. I know that this speech can touch deep, because when the gente loves, sometimes wants to hold, guarantee, control, understand everything, but some answers only arrive when the soul quiets itself. And perhaps this be the part of your walk that most is being worked now, the interior firmness. If you are listening to this at night, perhaps with the tired head and the full heart, I want that you feel this company now. Not all weight is empty. Not all silence is abandonment. Not all distance is end. There are processes happening. There are feelings reorganizing themselves. There are truths emerging, and heaven is seeing everything. You don't need to force nothing. Don't need to diminish yourself to be chosen. Don't need to run behind whomever still is confused. What you need is remaining whole. Because when change comes for the side of outside, you are going to need to be strong to recognize if she comes with truth. The angels show that this person can soon feel a bigger necessity of getting closer. Not necessarily of a perfect form, mature or exactly as you dreamed, but there can be movement, there can be attempt, there can be search, there can be a gesture. And here I need to be very sincere with you. If this happens, don't answer only with emotion. Answer also with discernment, because signs of change aren't the same thing as complete transformation. Sometimes the person begins to change, but still is in the beginning. So observe, feel, perceive. Don't deliver yourself blindly only because there was movement. Value your peace. Compartilly this video with 2 dear people who need this message today. And if you can, leave also in the comments a prayer for your guardian angel. I like much of this prayer chain that forms here because she creates a beautiful environment, welcoming, where a person strengthens the other. And sincerely, this makes a difference. There is people who enters here thinking that is alone and finds in the comments a strength that didn't imagine. There is something even deeper happening in this connection, a type of alignment between truth and time. Time is showing for this person that which before she didn't want to see. And truth is making the heart of her perceive that certain connections don't replace themselves so easily. The angels show that the energy between you still carries potential, but this potential must not be treated as blind guarantee. It must be treated as sacred possibility, something that can flourish, since there exists humility, truth, and real disposition to act different. And I want to ask you a very intimate thing. If this person really changed, would you be ready to live something new, or still would be trapped to what messed you? This question is important, because sometimes the gente says that wants reconciliation, but from inside still is embraced to what wounded. Sometimes wants the return, but doesn't want the vulnerability that comes along with it. Sometimes wants the person back, but doesn't want more the old dynamic. So this message also serves to prepare you, to help you perceive what you would accept and what you wouldn't accept more. What today would be love, and what would be repetition of pattern. The angels show that you didn't receive this message to delude yourself, but to position yourself spiritually. There exists movement, yes. There exists a sign, yes. There exists change, yes. But heaven wants that you be in foot, conscious, serene, and strong. Wants that you know that you don't need to mendicant presence, nor implore for truth. What is touched by God tends to exit from confusion. What is true tends to seek clarity. What has purpose tends to be purified. And if this connection still has something to live, she is going to need to pass through this place of truth. Perhaps you still see little thing from the side of outside. Perhaps still don't have the concrete confirmation that wanted, but your heart already manages to perceive that something is not equal. And it is that which the angels are reinforcing today. There are signs of change in this connection, not because you imagined, not because you wanted much. As an emotional shift takes hold, there are emotions being stirred, structures internal being shaken, and decisions silent, beginning to mature. What is in preparation not always makes noise in the beginning, sometimes grows in silence until gaining form. So, starting from today, try not to feed only the pressa. Alimenta also the peace. Don't ask only when. Pregunta also for what. Don't think only in what this person is going to do. Pensa also in what God is forming inside you. Because the connection can up to be changing, but you also are. And this is precious. Perhaps one of the biggest bensaus of this story be precisely the fact of you not being more the same woman of before. You are more sensitive, but also more conscious. More loving, but also more selective. More spiritual, but also more lucid. And this changes everything. If this message spoke with you, write in the comments. If it be of truth, this connection will be guided by light, by truth, and by peace. Compartilhe your experience, like this video, and subscribe to the channel for more messages like this. Thank you for being here with me. May God bless your life, strengthen your heart, and illuminate the path of this connection. Until the next video.